I'm not here to whisper sweet nothings in your ear, and you're not here because the truth is something that you fear. Welcome to Escaping the Echo Chamber. We've got a good one today. And everybody's talking about it. Everybody's talking about Candace Owens exposing Patrisse Cullors. Candace is putting it in terms of, I exposed her. And Candace even did a video talking about Black America owes me an apology. And I find that interesting because a bunch of Black people have been calling out the BLM national organization for a very, very long time. A bunch of people, a bunch of Black people have been, like, even if you just take a look at in Missouri, in Missouri, where Ferguson happened, like the people on the ground were like, who are you people? So for a very long time, people have been realizing that you're dealing with something and somebody other than somebody who's not really interested in serving the needs, the interest, or addressing or actually providing solutions to the problems that the Black community was facing. But Candace doesn't know Black people. So Candace wants to pat herself on the back, and Candace is acting like she is doing something that no one else has done. Like I said, so many people have been calling out BLM, the global Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. In fact, even other BLM chapters have been calling out BLM Global Network Foundation. So right here in New York, Hawk Newsom has been quite vocal how his BLM of Greater New York is not affiliated, is not a subsidiary, and is not connected to the BLM National Global Network Foundation. But let's take a look at something, because I think a lot of people don't seem to realize, not even don't seem to realize, don't remember all of the things that have happened to get here. Patrisse, you're a thief. Fafa clearly isn't a fan of Patrisse, and I don't blame Fafa. Because even though the grift is strong, so there is a tendency, there's a tendency to use these issues, use these problems that are facing the Black community as a method to fundraise, to draw attention to your cause. And 2020 was a particularly interesting year because of all of the unrest, because of all of the upheaval, societal upheaval in the United States, that it was a very profitable year for some of the grifters. And Patrisse and her crew made out like bandits. They made out like bandits. But before we get to the Instagram Live, before we get to Candace pulling up on Patrisse Cullors last week, let's talk about Patrisse Cullors. Let's talk about how Patrisse, her and some friends, a couple of, Alicia Garza and Opal Tometi, they founded this BLM group, the Global Network Foundation. And for the purposes, like, I'll distinguish if I'm talking about a different chapter or if I'm talking about, the Global Network Foundation. but they founded it. And that's where the media put its focus on. The media put its focus on that organization. The media put its brand of support, its brand of approval on that organization. There were other organizations working to fight for Black issues, be it criminal justice reform, the like, but that's the one that was chosen. That was the one that was given the stamp of approval. And I think it's important for people to realize why. Because from the moment they founded their organization, some people had some questions about, okay, so what are you doing? What is your actual plan? Because we can talk about Trayvon Martin. Let's talk about Trayvon Martin. You've got a young Black kid walking home, got some Skittles and some soda, and there's a dude in the car following him. He sees the car following him, gets on the phone, tells somebody, his friend, that he's being followed, and then he starts running. Guy in the car follows him some more till he runs down an alley. Then the guy in the car gets out of the car, starts chasing him down the alley. He hides. He thinks he's lost this guy that was chasing him. He comes out, boom, George Zimmerman catches up to him. Now Trayvon Martin is in a fight for his life. You've got an armed aggressor who was following you in a car, then jumped out of his car to chase you down on foot. Unfortunately, we know how the rest goes. Trayvon Martin does not survive the encounter. They don't even want to prosecute Zimmerman. It takes people protesting in the streets for the case to actually be brought to a grand jury, the indictment and everything to happen, and for Zimmerman to even be tried. That's what Patrisse and her crew say. They were upset about that. They were outraged by that. And they said, we need to do something because Black Lives Matter. What was their plan? Trayvon was murdered. They come up with a group named Black Lives Matter. And what is Black Lives Matters? What is its plan? A lot of people actually looked at their mission statement and were confused. And they were saying, wait a minute, what exactly does your mission statement have to do with saving Black lives? What exactly does your mission statement have to do with making sure that the next Trayvon doesn't happen? What does it have to do with it? Let's take a look at their mission statement. Welcome, Jay. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. Let's actually take a look at Black Lives Matter, the mission statement. Okay. Here it is. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter was founded in 2013 in response to the acquittal of Trayvon Martin's murderer. Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, Inc. is a global organization in the US, UK, and Canada whose mission is to eradicate white supremacy. Now, first off, when you say your mission is to eradicate white supremacy, now I'm looking at you skeptically. How in the world are you going to eradicate white supremacy? Like, what does that even mean? You're going to eradicate, like, that white supremacy is an ideology. And I would also point out that there's this distinction between white supremacy and anti-blackness. They're two separate things. They may frequently be in relation to each other and in proximity to one another, but they are two separate issues. But what does that mean? We're going to eradicate white supremacy. It has, like, you can literally make it mean anything, but we'll get back to that. In fact, yeah, let me take this off. Okay. Whose mission is to eradicate white supremacy and build local power to intervene in violence inflicted on Black communities by the state and vigilantes. Okay. By combating and countering acts of violence, creating space, okay, for Black imagination and innovation. Creating space for Black imagination and innovation? What does that mean? What does that mean? Creating, centering Black joy. We are winning immediate improvements in our lives. See, when you look at this mission statement, I automatically am like, wait a minute, this sounds like some grifting bull. This sounds like some nonsense. Because nothing in this is, okay, boom, we're going to protect Black people from getting killed either by, if you're going to talk about Trayvon, from vigilantes. Okay, we're going to protect Black people from getting killed from vigilantes by XYZ. Either providing some kind of community patrols, boom. Working to centering on self-defense or arming Black people. But none of that, like what you're talking about, centering Black joy, that has nothing to do with Trayvon. But you used his name, you used Trayvon Martin's name, and then you're talking about Black imagination and innovation, centering Black joy. And these words mean nothing. Like this was just some nonsense you created so you could grift off of. But you had some whatever your idea is. It's not even rationally, remotely related to Trayvon Martin or to making sure that another Trayvon Martin doesn't happen. But there's more. We are expansive. We are a collective of liberators who believe in an inclusive and spacious movement. Inclusive and spacious. What do you mean inclusive and spacious? We also believe that in order to win and bring as many people with us, we must move beyond the narrow nationalism that is all too prevalent in Black communities. This is when we're starting to get to the crux of it. This is when we're starting to get to the true point of all of this. We must ensure we are building a movement that brings all of us to the front. What do you mean, all of us? Next line. We affirm the lives of Black, queer, and trans folks. Oh, I see what this is. This has zero to do with Trayvon Martin. This has absolutely nothing to do with Trayvon Martin. But you have a Black LGBT agenda, which if you want to do that, cool. But you're attaching your movement, which is about something completely different, to Trayvon Martin's name and pretending like that's what you care about. So from the very outset, and there are people who automatically looked at this and said, what? There was a bunch of Black people that was calling this out. There's like, the two things are completely unrelated. What are you talking about? We affirm the lives of Black, queer, and trans folks, disabled folks, undocumented folks, folks with record, women, and all Black lives along the gender spectrum. Okay, this has nothing, absolutely nothing. Our network centers those who have been marginalized within Black liberation movements. That's what this was about. So from the very beginning, that's what this was about. Just about, okay, we want to create a Black LGBT, organization, but which, if you want to do that, cool, do that. But that's had nothing to do with Trayvon Martin, because what you're doing here is some bait and switch nonsense. You put Trayvon Martin, yes, this is what we're fighting for, and Trayvon Martin has nothing to do with what you're trying to do. But you're piggybacking your movement on attaching it to his name. This was disingenuous from the start. This was some bait and switch nonsense from the start. This was something that had nothing to do with its pretended purpose from the start. But a bunch of Black people were calling this out from the start. From the start, there were tons of Black people that were calling out this nonsense. They're like, wait a minute, this has nothing to do with Trayvon. This has nothing to do with police brutality. This has nothing to do with these extrajudicial murders and vigilante murder. This has nothing to do with that. You'll have your separate agenda that you're trying to basically piggyback on tragedy, Black tragedies, to push your agenda forward. But the mainstream, the media, just, you know what? We like it. We're going to promote you. We're going to push you. We're going to give you the backing you need. And this is who they chose. This is who the media chose. It's not who Black people chose. This is who the media chose. That's what's important to realize. Black people didn't choose Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. White liberals did. White liberals chose Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. An unapologetic gamer. BLM at this point seems more about the sentiment than the actual group. So if you mean like, because I do want to point out that the words Black Lives Matter have meaning, and I agree. And there are many people who will say that those words, Black Lives Matter, and not support this organization. They will not support BLM Global Network Foundation, but people that believe that Black Lives Matter. So there's a difference between the sentiment and the Global Network Foundation. And there's even difference between BLM organizations, because like I said, you've got Black Lives Matter of Greater New York, which is a separate entity altogether. Hawk Newsom is not affiliated with, his organization is not affiliated with the Patrisse Cullors former organization. None. They have nothing to do with each other. Sheik Yu, I really don't like these vague talking points, and you're not alone. You are not the only person that does not like these vague talking points. I can't stand these vague talking points. Jay the Informate. Jesse Lee Peterson interviewed a couple of them, and he called them out on that bull. I don't agree with most of what he says, but he was right about Black Lives Matter organization and Barack Obama. And it's ridiculous that if you look at the way she operates, Patrisse Cullors, she's very careful with where she does her media and who she meets with and sits with and talks to. Very careful and very calculated. Shay Pierre. Many melanated people were protecting their communities as well when BLM came to town, but were ignored and censored. And so when we talk about Ferguson, because when Ferguson happens, you've got grassroots activists on the ground in Ferguson who are like, no, we're fighting for our community. We don't know who the hell you are. We don't know who these people are. Like, y'all are not fighting for us. Y'all are not representing us. Y'all are doing some other stuff. Like, we're here. And then when you look at what's happened to the individuals that were on the ground in Ferguson, Missouri, that was crazy. That was really crazy. That was really crazy because there were people that were on the ground in Ferguson, Missouri that just started dropping like flies. Unsolved murders. More than multiple unsolved murders. And it's like, what the hell? And then the case happens. What's his name? Darren, whatever that cop's name is, he gets off. But the DOJ comes in. This wasn't that. Despite the fact that there's several problems with the DOJ's investigation and its claims about the veracity of hands up, don't shoot. Because if you look at it, the things that what's his name, Michael Brown's best friend said from the very beginning, and the cop Darren Wilson said, they said opposite things. And then the autopsy came back and it proved Darren Wilson was lying. Darren Wilson was lying. Because Darren Wilson came out at the beginning and said, I didn't shoot. I did not shoot Michael Brown when he was in the car. When I pulled him in, when he was in the car, I did not shoot him. Michael Brown's friend said he did. Autopsy shows Michael Brown's friend was telling the truth. But that changes the narrative. Do you know why that changes the narrative? Let me tell you why that changes the narrative. It changes the narrative because his claim is that Michael Brown lunged in the car and tried to take his gun. So if his gun is in the holster, Michael Brown is trying to take his gun. The gun is pointing down. How does Michael Brown get shot? Remember, the other account is he grabs Michael Brown and puts the gun at him. That's the other story. So if Michael Brown is in the car and gets shot, that supports the other story, not Darren Wilson's story. Darren Wilson's story is that he's got the gun in his holster. Michael Brown tries to take it. So how does Michael Brown get shot? The other story, that he pulled Michael Brown into the car and then pointed the gun at him, that supports that story. The autopsy supports that story. Because the first time Michael Brown got shot was when at close range while he was in the car. So not just close range, but there's blood in the car. Michael Brown's blood is in the car. But the DOJ said, hands up, don't shoot, didn't happen. The DOJ said that version of events was unreliable. Remember, this is the same DOJ being ran by Eric Holder, who had a habit of not prosecuting police, even when the police departments had said the police were out of pocket. So even when police departments did investigations and found that various officers were out of pocket and were doing stuff they shouldn't have been doing, Eric Holder would not prosecute. But that's another story. Because on the ground in Ferguson, Missouri, the activists, the grassroots activists that are there are doing the work, but this other group comes in. This other group comes in and they're like, who are these people? Who are these people? But the mainstream, the white liberal establishment says, these are the ones we support. We're pushing them to the front. This is who you support. This is who you give your money to. This is who we funnel donations to act like we actually care about Black people. That's what type of time they were on. That's where they wanted the folks to be. This was the group that they chose. And we just saw the group's mission statement and stuff. What were they about? Centering Black queerness. And what does that have to do with Trayvon Martin? What does that have to do with Michael Brown? What does that have to do with any of the other people that were killed, Black people that were subsequently killed by police or by vigilantes? What does that have to do with George Floyd? Not a damn thing. What does that have to do with Ahmaud Arbery? Nothing. Sandra Bland? Not a damn thing. All of these cases, all of these things that have happened, this group, Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, claims to be on the front lines of the issue, claims to be focused on the issue, but nothing they're talking about actually, they want to eradicate white supremacy. How? Like that, number one, how that your focus is, so your focus is, we want to change white people's minds. Like you think this is a legitimate goal? You think this is a legitimate use of resources? Because you're basically saying the goal of our organization is to get white people to like us. That's what you're saying. And that's not just their goal. The goal of what they're saying is the goal of the organization is to get racist white people. Think about that. To eradicate their goal, the goal of their organization is to get racist white people to like them. Just think about that for a second. Does that make any sense at all? Just a little bit. Doesn't make any sense. Does it? But it gets worse. It gets worse. So a bunch of you may know that, maybe you remember, maybe you don't, but let's remind everyone that Patrisse Cullors is a trained Marxist. Trained Marxist. So what does she believe in? She believes in, the means of production being shared. She believes in personal property, but not private property, right? Because do you know the difference between, see, I didn't know, because I'm not a Marxist, but in Marxist theory, personal property is, I own like a toothbrush. I own some clothes. I own like things that personally apply to me. That's personal property. Private property, that's like more stuff. That's like the land. It's like land. Houses. That's private property. Marxists, they believe in personal property. No, private property is different. Personal property is okay. Private property, no. But then comes to find out, some stories come out. In fact, let's take a look at some of these things that we later found out about the organization. We're going to take a look at some of these things because I think it's important to take a look at not just what just happened, but what's happened before, how we even got to this point. I think that's important. This was this was last year, I believe. This was last year when it came out. New York Post did the story about how Patrisse Cullors owned multiple homes. And so now there was a question of, okay, well, where'd you get the money for these multiple homes? Because some people were wondering, hey, didn't BLM just get $90 million? So if BLM just got $90 million, now all of a sudden you own like three homes. Where'd you get that money? But listen, to be fair, they're giving her like speaking engagements. She's got like endorsement deals from people. So this is like it's funny. You have to ask yourself, how anti-establishment is a person if the establishment is endorsing them? Like, that needs to be like, at some point we need to just stop saying, wait a minute, this isn't ringing true. Like, how is it that you're fighting the system, but the system loves you? But she was on this. New York Post came out with the story, and then you have people started asking questions. So this was when Black News Channel was still in existence, and Mark Lamont Hill brought her on. And so now this tweet was from Van Lathan, formerly of TMZ. He thought this was a great interview. If you could look at the ratio, there's a lot of people who disagreed with him. 432 comments to the 191 likes, because this was not a great interview. This was a horrible interview. And in addition to not pushing adequately, like, he just basically allowed her to play these games, these word games, and not accept any responsibility, any accountability for the lack of consistency with her stated principles and then her actual lived principles. Explains how her home ownership and income don't betray her Marxist principles. It's all for her family. So private property is wrong unless you give private property to people that your family. Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. So capitalism is wrong except when you're amassing capital for your family. Was this a Fast and Furious movie? It's all about the family. With that rationale, they can't criticize Black capitalism. It's being done to provide for Black families. That's what I said. There's no way you can then say, oh, well, as long as you're doing it for a family, it's okay. Well, okay, then you can't argue against capitalism, because if you're doing it for a family, it's okay. But let's take a look at some of these questions, comments. Shay, many melanated people were protecting the community. Okay, yeah. Roland Martin is still defending. We're gonna get on Roland Martin because it's ridiculous what he's doing. Like it's ridiculous the narrative he's still trying to spin in her favor. Like no, like and her defenses are just so weak, so completely weak and and not even responsive to the issues being raised. By the way, I don't know if you watch Atlanta, but Kevin Samuels was on the new episode. He did great. Okay. I got to see that episode. Yeah, because I saw it was Thursday, not this past Thursday, last Thursday night. It was advertised right as the news of his passing had came, which is like, wow, that's crazy. I always laugh when someone goes off on nationalism, calling it evil, and promote separation. That it's a them versus us mentality. Mad Doom Dog, Wolf 2091. But then they try to get as many people to join a group or an organization and say, if you're not with us, you're against us. Red, black, and green. Yes, there can be only one. Patrisse is by far the one. Most greatest grifter. Well, yeah, if we're looking at the numbers, yeah, Candace is not happy. Like that's what Candace is pissed. I don't really think people really understand what nationalism is, a nutritional thing. It can be used for good or neutral thing. It could be used for good or bad ideas. Bookish, welcome. Shay Pierre, who are BLM? When you mean the far right who burnt down Minnesota police station. BLM is BLM. The far right is the far right. Not sure what the question means. People like Patrisse Cullors, Trey, welcome. People like Patrisse Cullors, Candace Owens, Officer Tatum, Dr. Umar, I guess. They are basically all the same person doing the same grift, just different political parties. The one name I would take out of that is Dr. Umar because, okay, he has a plan. I think his hard execution of that plan is absolutely atrocious, but he does have a plan. He says he wants to build a school, and I think that's a great idea. I think that's a great goal. I think his execution has been atrocious, and I think ego plays a part in that. I think he wants to be at the forefront. He wants to be, and if you're in a movement, if you're really about a movement, about a principle, it's got to be bigger than you. You can't make it all about you. If you're really into a movement and you're really fighting for some principles, then you have to make sure it's bigger than you. Like, how many times have we seen that in the past? How many times have we seen in the past that people want to make a movement about them, and that becomes the downfall of the movement? That becomes the problem that shows that, okay, the movement just falls by the wayside because somebody wanted it to be about them. In the words of Dr. Umar, they only want donations, gifts. You missed the point then, unfortunately. There's BLM, the social media movement, and BLM, the grifting company. And there's other chapters of BLM and BLM organizations that are not affiliated with the Global Network Foundation. Yes, all the same, divide and conquer. I'm not entirely sure what that means. The social movement of BLM has no leader. It's decentralized, like the group Anonymous, just an idea. What do most people see as BLM? Do they see what the media portrays, or do they see the idea? Well, I know a bunch of people will say Black Lives Matter and mean the idea. They will mean the notion that Black Lives Matter. The organization, the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, capitalizes on that idea to enrich itself and its people. Patrisse Cullors made the organization. The decentralized social media movement is very different. but this truth has been obfuscated. I agree. Okay, there's some agreement. The majority think it's a company with a leader, so yeah, it's too late. It's about the family. Funny thing about the difference between personal and private property can be so murky that you can pretty easily claim anything can be personal property instead of private property. Umar been getting donations for almost 12 years and still haven't done nothing. That's why I said his execution is absolutely atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. Because we look at how King Randall came in and boom, just blew past Umar. And it's like, Umar, if you had enough humility to say, you know what, I may be good at this thing. I may be good at, I may be great at running the school, but actually putting the project together and having the school built and everything, I may need somebody else. I may need to bring somebody else who's good at other things. I may need to bring somebody on board that knows about contracting so that they can stay on top of the contractors and know what is supposed to be done in a certain amount of time and what is unreasonable. But it appears that like he wants to be like he can't grow. If he has no ability to delegate authority to other people, then he can't grow. Because if he has to be the person taking, active controls all the time, then yeah, there's not going to be any growth. There can't be any growth. I assume the majority, not a fact, perhaps the online community at least. But I want to look at what Patrisse Cullors said. So when the story broke last year about the BLM and her owning several properties, because remember, she's no longer the head of Black Lives Matter. She's no longer she stepped down as running the organization, allegedly. And I say allegedly because we'll get to that in a while. Why I say allegedly. But in response to these articles that were coming out about her owning several properties, she had some statements to make. Let's take a look at them. So she gets on Instagram, and like I said, this is from last year. This is when the information broke about. This is when the information broke about her last year and owning multiple properties. Her response: this movement began and will always remain a love letter to Black people. 3 words: Black Lives Matter, serve as a reminder to Black people that we are human and deserve to live vibrant and full lives. So now, already, if you got to see where this is headed, that Black people deserve to live vibrant and full lives. You see where she's going with this already, right? She's talking about herself. She's talking about herself. So never mind the people that are being murdered by police. She's talking about the Black person that she's talking about deserves to live a vibrant and full life. Because if you're focused on this police brutality issue, if you're focused on people getting killed by police, then the fact is you want Black people to actually live, to survive. That's the objective. But you now segue into Black people living full and vibrant lives, and it's clear that what you're about to do is say, and I'm Black, so I deserve to live a vibrant and full life. I've worked multiple jobs across many organizations my entire life. I'm also a published author, writer, producer, professor, public speaker, and performance artist. I love my work in all of these areas, and I work hard to provide for my family. It's funny because she got interviewed by the AP earlier this week, and that once again, she kept several times, I work my ass off. I work like you get that being an activist is hard work. Like apparently you don't get it because like because it's like you're trying to get credit for doing, for like what the purpose of activism is, but you want some kind of accolades for that instead of actually just getting the work done. I am accountable to my community in pursuit of an abolitionist world founded in transformative justice. Word salad. I do not receive a salary or benefits for Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, period. And as true as this may be, see, so in fact, the funny thing is, this actually, for her whole claims that, where you see this is going in terms of, well, I deserve to, I'm working my butt off, I deserve to live a vibrant and full life. Well, then why haven't you paid yourself a salary? Because as stuff comes out, it begins to become evident that there's other things going on here. That you're trying to do things in a roundabout way to present an image. Now, it may not be illegal, but it's time for people to call you out for the nonsense you're doing. You're trying to obscure things. This effort to discredit and harass me and my family is not new, nor is it acceptable. There goes that word, because you're going to hear her talk about acceptable, what is and what's not acceptable another time. It has taken away from where the focus should be, ending white supremacy. Once again, how? How? You may not like or agree with me. I have definitely made mistakes. I own up to that. No, you're not owning up to it. That's the point. That's the entire reason why we're having this conversation, is because she's not owning up to these mistakes. She's standing here still trying to defend what she's doing. Oh no, well, I deserve to live a vibrant and full life. Black people deserve, and I'm a Black person, so I deserve this. No, you're not owning up to your mistakes. You're gaslighting us. I apologize for the mistakes I made, and I work hard at practicing my abolitionist values. Okay, since you're owning up to your mistakes, what mistakes have you made? But you won't hear her ever say that. But this is deeper than that. On top of these articles being full of lies, it's also dangerous. Number one, if these articles are lying, sue them. Sue them. Sue them. If they're lying, sue them. Because these articles have said you own these properties. You then straw man what these articles are saying and say, "Oh, well, I'm doing this. Well, I didn't take money from BLM and just buy these houses." What you're not talking about is how you've used the establishment has embraced you and has paid you like separately in order to get you to push a compromised agenda. That's what you're not talking about. This is doxing, attacking someone online by disseminating private information about them. Once again, at this point, she was the leader of a international organization, global network foundation. She was the leader, the head of a international nonprofit organization. And yet she's trying to pretend that people shouldn't be asking her questions. It's harmful and it's scary for people and their loved ones, especially someone who receives death threats regularly. Of course, these articles aren't death threats. These articles are calling you out for some nonsense. To my fellow Black activists, you know what this is. No. Don't try to include other Black activists. This is about you. This is about what you're not doing and how you seem to be coming off of this struggle very well. You seem to be doing very well for yourself. Why is that? We've seen this tactic of terror. This tactic of terror. Accountability is not terror. Calling you to task is not terror. Telling you to show and prove, what are you doing? That's not terror. I'll admit this is a scary time for me, but I will not let this be the moment that silences me. We still have work to do. See, this is the type of gaslighting that just doesn't make any sense. This is the type of gaslighting. And I want you to remember something else that happened. When this story came out, social media was actually blocking it. Social media was blocking this story. Because I'm on Facebook, I share the story, and Facebook is blocking it. So I'm like, why is this post being censored? Why? And so, because New York Post had written a story, and so they said they responded to Facebook and other social media companies blocking this. The next time People magazine covers Kim Kardashian's latest mansion purchase, will it violate any community standards? How about running a picture of the resort Ted Cruz is staying at? So they're like, listen, since when have you been saying, oh, you can't talk about a public figure buying property? Since when? That's never been a thing. But suddenly you see the establishment come out to run interference on behalf of this woman who claims to be fighting for Black liberation. For someone that's fighting against the establishment, you seem to be very cozy with the establishment. Who says we can't live vibrant and full lives? These strawman stuff, man. Jason Murdoch, BLM is shady as hell, but we also need to look into how Candace used Blexit funding. Jason, stay tuned, because we're getting into all of that. We are getting into all of that, because that's the funny thing. Like Candace must be under the assumption that, hey, if I just talk loud enough about what if I just talk loud enough about what if I just talk loud enough about what BLM is doing, nobody's going to look at what Blexit is doing. Like I said, we're getting into all of that. I don't want anybody to look at what Blexit is doing, but we're gonna break down the finances. And it's especially funny because if you know about Candace also tried to do that to a fellow, well, I mean, I say fellow, because Candace isn't really conservative. Candace is a grifter. Candace believes in enriching Candace. But Candace went after Kimberly Klacik, who's a Black conservative who ran for office in Baltimore, started up a PAC, and then had the audacity to ask Candace to stop being disrespectful to Black people. And then Candace did an expose on Kim Klasik's funding. Oh, what's she doing with this money? Where's she getting this money from? I don't have any proof of it, but I feel she's embezzling money. I feel she's laundering money. I feel she's committing federal crimes. And I'm going to get on my Instagram and say she's committing federal crimes, but I'm not going to get on my Daily Wire show and say it, because Ben Shapiro is not about to let me drag him and his company into this bullshit. But I'm going to get on Instagram, and a bunch of my followers are going to be gullible enough to just run with this. Well, she's getting sued right now for that, so it's going to be funny to see where that ends. But like I said, for somebody who keeps pointing the fingers at others, it's going to be kind of interesting what happens when we start taking a look at Candace and Blexit. It's going to be interesting. But that was just all of this stuff with Patrisse Cullors. The $1 million properties, the millions of dollars of property. That was last year. That was something separate. Because this year, something else happened. Despite all of that, this year, something else happened. This year, somebody did a story where they came out with some information. They came out with information that had not been publicly known up until now. They came out with this story, and this guy did his research. He did his numbers. He's digging. He's asking them questions. He's asking BLM. So at this point, Patrisse has stepped down. Patrisse has already stepped down. She stepped down last year after the news of her personal, these other properties, these private properties she purchased. After that broke, then she decides, oh, I'm stepping down. Okay. Stepping down. Now people are asking questions because this gentleman does some digging and he finds something interesting. He finds there's another property because Patrisse Cullors, Alicia Garza, Opal Tometi did that YouTube live stream, and they did it in this very plush looking location. And people are like, huh, the place looks nice. That place looks really nice. But nobody realized who owned it. Like they just thought, okay, that's where they're doing this live stream. That's where they're filming from. So why didn't anybody realize that Black Lives Matter Foundation owned that? Well, because this guy does the digging. This guy does the digging. And the fact that he had to do the digging shows you something's not quite on the up and up. Like you can't sit here and talk about smears. You can't claim to be targeted, that these are right-wing conspiracies against you. You can't make that claim. You cannot make that claim if you're actively trying to hide information. If you're hiding information and you're going to lengths to conceal the existence of this house or the ownership of this property. Now, this isn't right-wing propaganda. This is the truth. This is you getting called out. But let's actually take a look at that story when that story broke. Let's actually take a look at that because that's going to because once we take a look at that story, then we're going to be able to see that then we're going to be able to see something else. Then we're going to be able to see more. Like this is beyond what you're trying to make it seem like. This is, see, what she doesn't want to talk about was who bought this house. She didn't. The Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation did not buy the house outright. A separate company bought the house. Think about this. Instead of just going ahead and buying the house, there was a separate company that went ahead and bought the house. So like the New York Post called it a shell company. It was sold to Diane Pascal, who's a Los Angeles-based real estate developer who works in the nonprofit sector. And then it was transferred to a Delaware limited liability company. So they bought it and then transferred it. The LLC is registered under a Washington, D.C. office for the law firm Perkins Coie, which had set up the complex web of Black Lives Matter Network Global Foundation related entities in 2016. So you're going through all of these channels to, and here's why this is even more important, because remember what she said. She said, I have never received a salary from Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. What she isn't talking about is, did she funnel money to consulting organizations and then pay herself from the organizations? That's the kind of stuff that she's not talking about. So she's very carefully crafting statements that she's saying, and then not talking about how, okay, what did you have people from your family on the payroll? Because when she talked to the AP this week, then she's like, oh, well, yeah, so my I think she said her brother was doing security for BLM and getting a salary. And then I think like her mother and sister were also at one point getting paid by Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation or one of their direct entities. So like there's a whole bunch of extra stuff that's going on that she's not being forthcoming about. And then you see this house, which you've clearly gone to efforts to conceal the who owns this. You've created a separate company to purchase this house. What? But it's a right-wing conspiracy. I think it's actually it's a little bit ironic that they purchased the house from a televangelist. Like I guess the Grifters Incorporated. I don't know who the televangelists are, but I just know that there's a lot of televangelist grifters out there, and so it's kind of funny. I guess it stays in from one grift to the next, you know. Okay, so there's another comment. Hello, Glade. Welcome to the stream. But now we get to what happened last week, because after this story broke, after we get to the expose of this dude doing the research and finding out, wait a minute, y'all own this $6 million property, and y'all have gone to extreme lengths to conceal who actually owns this property. And then they come forward, oh yeah, we own that. And people are like, oh, look, they owned it. They said that, they admitted it. They got caught. They were asked for a statement, and then they finally came clean. Because the paper trail, the work had already been done to uncover the paper trail, and now they're exposed. So now they're coming out, oh yeah, by the way, yeah, we do own that. But this is what prompted last Saturday, Candace, I guess, to go to Patrisse Cullors' house with a camera crew and start asking some questions. So what prompted it? But I want to talk about Patrisse Cullors live. because she gets on live. Patrisse Cullors gets on live. She starts crying. She's on Instagram, and she's talking about how scared she is, how she's frightened for her safety, because Candace Owens was at her home. Then she says, "Oh, what if the next right-wing person brings a gun?" Well, let's deal with this one. Let's deal with the fact that Candace Owens, to our knowledge, didn't bring a gun. At least she didn't flash a gun or let anybody, like, so nobody flashed guns. And you're not saying anybody did, but you're saying, what if they do next time? Well, apparently that didn't happen this time. So you're inventing, she's inventing some danger that doesn't actually exist right now to herself. Or to avoid accountability, or to avoid answering for the nonsense you're doing. And she says it's unacceptable for people to show up outside her house with cameras. It's unacceptable. You know what your job is, right? You get that. Do you get that your job, if you've chosen to be an activist, like people are going to ask you questions. Some people will agree with your movement. Some people will disagree with your movement. You've got to be able to answer questions. And there's some people you may choose to ignore because you may not think they're coming in good faith. And quite frankly, I get it. Candace Owens does not operate in good faith. Cool. I get that. But the fact that she's there, like, that you can address the fact that I'm not going to speak to Candace Owens because Candace Owens does not come in good faith. Candace Owens is a grifter. Candace Owens is a liar. Candace Owens is somebody who pushes bogus right-wing talking points to undermine the existence and addressing Black issues. That's Candace Owens' job. Now you say that, cool. If you call out Candace Owens out for the piece of garbage that she is, awesome, amazing. Go ahead, call her out. But if you decide that you're going to get here, oh, no one should be asking me questions. They came with cameras. Like, this is unacceptable. Are you for real? It's unacceptable for people to come out and ask you questions? BLM made $90 million. $90 million in 2020. We got a lot more questions. We got a lot more questions to ask. And you got a lot of answers that you should be providing. Then she goes to talk about how Black people should be able to fight for our rights without being harassed, without having to fear for our safety. Yes, that's a perfect situation. And in a perfect situation, Black people wouldn't be getting harassed, wouldn't have to fear for our safety. But of course, in a perfect situation, Black people wouldn't need to fight for our rights either. Like, that's the that's the point. You're kind of missing the point. This isn't a perfect situation. And if you're going to stand on the front lines on behalf of so many that are suffering, then stop the blood clot crying. For real. Especially on behalf of yourself. Why is this happening to me? Okay, get the hell out the way. Sit down, shut the hell up. Don't say nothing else. Don't raise no. And I want to talk about how Roland Martin keeps coming out and defending her and saying, why isn't BLM leadership speaking? And it appears to me that there's a reason why BLM leadership isn't speaking, because right up to now, they said that there were certain people that were supposed to take the place, right? There are certain people that are supposed to take the place in leadership position, and they never accepted the job. Yet every time something happens about BLM, she comes out and she's speaking. Why is she still speaking? It's almost as if she's not as separate from BLM as she's claiming to be. It's almost as if she still is exercising a lot more control over BLM than we've been led to believe. It's almost as if her stepping down was just a, oh, let me announce I'm stepping down. But yet every time there's an issue, you're still like, okay, so are you in charge? Are you actually still running BLM? Because that question needs to be asked, especially when they're according to who was the people that were claimed to be taking over came forward and said, no, we're not running this. We are not running this. We have never accepted the position. So who's really running BLM? But Roland Martin keeps running interference. Keeps running interference, keeps caping for her, and refuses to speak about how there's accountability issues and she should be being held accountable. But she's not being held accountable. She gets on Instagram Live and she's crying and pointing the finger, and this is white supremacy. No. This is you grifting off of Black tragedies. This is you tying your own agenda, your own enrichment to some horrible things that have happened to Black men and women at the hands of law enforcement and these wannabe cops. You're part of the problem. But you got people like Roland Martin who want to keep caping for her. It's ridiculous. That's what's unacceptable. The way the way her organization is not actually fighting for Black people, that's unacceptable. The tens of millions of dollars that her organization has raised, and it seems like you're doing very well for yourself. And this whole stated goal of ending white supremacy is no closer. Because once again, and this is the question anybody with their sort needs to ask, so how are you going to end white supremacy? So your goal, the goal of your organization is to end white supremacy. How? How exactly are you going to accomplish that? How much money are you going to need to accomplish that? What are your steps? What is your 5-year plan in ending white supremacy? How much closer are we to ending white supremacy in 5 years? So, and when she's going to give some florid, ridiculous, long-winded answer that doesn't actually answer the question, that's actually non-responsive. And it's going to be like, and how does that have anything to do with actually accomplishing these goals? But to trend with her, because every time she's questioned, every time she's criticized, she resorts to the same playbook. She deflects, and then any critiques, any questions, any focus on the legitimate issues. Oh, these are right-wing attacks. So she gets interviewed by the AP earlier this week. Oh, I worked my ass off. I don't give a fuck. This isn't about you. Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation is not supposed to be about you. And despite the bull that's in your mission statement, that part isn't in your mission statement. It's not, okay, this is about me. the mission statement is to enrich myself while riding on the coattails of murdered Black men and women. That's not the mission statement. Now, if you want to say, well, I did say I want to center Black queer folk. I'm queer, so that's what I'm talking about. This is the stuff that needs to be getting called out. And letting this dichotomy exist as it's either Candace or her. No, both of these broads are just horrible human beings. Both of them are horrible human beings who are doing nothing for the Black community. Both of them. And I know I've spent most of this live right now going off on Patrisse Cullors. Oh, trust me, I'm about to get in on Candace. Candace is coming. Yes. Because that's the amazing thing. Candace Owens, of all people, Candace Owens, of all people, getting on and acting like I'm going to expose her. You're going to, what? Have you looked in the mirror? Have you looked in the mirror and you're going to expose her? What does Blexit do for Black people? What does Blexit do for Black people? I mean, Candace can look at BLM, talk about how BLM is really a front for white liberals running the organization, and then ignore the fact that Blexit is actually a front for white conservatives or white Republicans running that organization. Question for all you that know Blexit, that have heard of Blexit, do you know who is the board of directors of Blexit? Who's the board of directors? That's what's hilarious. That is what's hilarious. Candace Owens has the nerve, the audacity, the unmitigated gall to point fingers at Patrisse Cullors and BLM and say, oh, that's being controlled by white liberals. Candace, who controls Blexit? For real, Candace, who controls Blexit? Like, Candace, you couldn't even find 5 Black so-called Republicans to be the board of directors for Blexit. Who controls Blexit? Like I said, we're about to get into this. We are about to get into this. I just noticed Candace Owens and Matt Walsh is at the same time pushing documentaries. I wonder who's funding it. Exactly. Matt Walsh, what is a woman documentary? And she says she's owed an apology too. No, Candace owes humanity an apology. Candace owes humanity an apology. Because remember, Candace Owens, formerly of I just lost the name. That doxing website, I forgot what it was called. But that website that was supposed to dox people, bullying people online, had that magazine that was a left-wing magazine, and then she switched grifts. She's like, okay, wait a minute. This right-wing grift is looking like it's going to pay. This right-wing gift looks profitable. So now I can switch, and I don't even need to know things. I just need to read scripts. I just need to read scripts and I will make a killing. Paid actress. I just need to become this right-wing pundit, this conservative pundit, and I'll get paid just for spouting talking points. I don't even need to know things. You know why? Because I'm just going to go in friendly circles where I get to say stupid stuff that's not based on reality, facts, knowledge, wisdom, anything, logic. It's not based on any of that. But I get to say it, and there's no one there to push back. Because I get to go on Tucker Carlson and say the dumbest shit imaginable, and Tucker's not going to push back. Because that's what I'm there for. I'm there to say stupid stuff. That's the whole point of me being on Tucker Carlson. So I could say stupid stuff. I could be the black person saying it, and he could say, oh, I didn't say it. The black woman said it. She can't be racist, can she? Social autopsy. Yes. Thank you, Bookish. Thank you so much. Yes, social autopsy. And then Degree 180 was the magazine. She was anti-Trump. Yes. Yes. Come on. We see the grift. We see the grift. Candace Owens and Patrisse Cullors are the same person. They're the same person. Candace Owens and Patrisse Cullors are the same damn person. Exploiting black issues for their personal profit. They are the same person. She also called gay sex the ultimate form of masculinity. Wow. Didn't know that one. I did not know that one. Lad, welcome. Her daddy gave a ton of money to TP USA too. Yep. You can do a Wayback Machine shirt. Okay. Explains why they promoted her so much. She's a white privileged black person besides the skin color. Yes, they are the same. Absolutely, they're the same. They're the same damn person. But the question is, okay, so let's talk about Candace. Let's talk about Candace, and let's talk about the things that Candace says, the things that Candace does. Candace likes talking about the issues, and I've talked to people who say, oh, she speaks the truth. And then as soon as I start poking holes in the stuff she's saying, they've got nothing to say. And to be fair, some of these people that will say Candace speaks the truth, because I've spoken to young black people on the right who just don't know. Like they haven't, like they've heard the talking points. They know that they don't like the left. They know that they don't like Democrats. And so they're like, okay, well, is there any space for a black conservative, a black Republican? And Candace is the face that's being pushed. Candace is the one that's prominent up there. And so that's who they'll look at. And they'll say, okay, that's where I got to be. Despite the fact that not really conservative. And a bunch of these pundits aren't actually conservative. A bunch of these pundits aren't socially conservative. A bunch of these pundits aren't fiscally conservative. A bunch of these pundits aren't constitutional conservatives. It's just the label they use. In fact, I like the way that I think it's so. I know Felicia Killings talks about these progressives on the right because that's what a lot of them are. A lot of them are. They're just right-wing progressives. That's it. They want government involved in all of these aspects of our lives. They want to expand government and grow government, but just to do what they want it to do. Not a damn thing about them conservative. They don't want small government. Oh, they love big government. They absolutely love it. But Candace forms Blexit. So Candace, she starts with TPUSA. She learns Black history from Charlie Kirk. Yeah, so that's your thing. She actually said that. She actually said that out of her mouth, and thought that it made sense. Thought that was a smart thing to say. Thought that she could say that she learned Black history from Charlie Kirk, and like that was a wise thing to say. This is who Candace Owens is. And also goes to show you why she's so wrong. Because if Charlie Kirk is who taught you Black history, then you don't know what the hell you're talking about. You don't. And it's obvious. But when you're in these echo chambers, when you're in these you're preaching to the choir, you go on with Tucker Carlson. You'll go on, you'll just gab with Dave Rubin. You have your own show, and she'll just bring on people that agree with you. Then you get to say whatever you want to say, and there's no pushback. Because you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And the stuff you're saying isn't even true. It's not true. She makes stuff up all of the time. But let's talk about Blexit. The Black exit. The Black exit from the Democratic plantation. So let's just take a look at that particular function. Calling the Democratic plantation. So you're already starting with this idea that you think it's somehow kosher to call Black people slaves on a plantation. But you're the smart one. You're bought and paid for by Republican special interests, but you're the smart one. You're the free one. It's time to start looking at Blexit. Like I said, it is time to start looking at Blexit. Okay, so we're going to look at Blexit. Remember what I said about who runs Blexit? Who's the board of directors? The board of governors. So this is from it's a tweet from this woman, Wendy Siegelman, who's talking about the Blexit Foundation, which was incorporated December 11, 2019. Its board of governors included Candace Owens Farmer. So if you don't know who Candace Owens Farmer is, Candace Owens, because she's married. Her husband, a white man from Britain, is George Farmer. So her hyphenated name, Candace Owens Farmer. Of course, she's one of the main founders, her and Brandon Tatum. Who else? George Farmer. So that white man from Britain is a member of the board of governors, member of the founding board of governors of the Black exit from the Democratic Party, Democratic plantation. Remember I said about her talking about how the BLM is a front for white liberals? So we've already got Candace Owens. She's Black. Her white husband. Okay. Neil Corkery. A lot of people don't know who Neil Corkery is. If you start looking up Neil Corkery, you'll realize that Neil Corkery is connected to a whole bunch of right-wing nonprofits, fundraising white dude. He's a Republican operative, basically. He's a Republican right-wing, and he has his hands in a whole bunch of things. One of the people behind Blexit. And so it's like, once again, let's go back to that whole point of Candace Owens pointing the finger at BLM. That BLM is owned and operated by, it is like the black faces we see of BLM is just the front. But there's white liberal money and white liberals behind that are really running it. Now we start looking at Blexit. And it's like, interesting. Gina Florio, Alice Hanley. Now finally we get to Brandon Tatum. At least he's black, right? No, he's not black. He's American. And Pierre Wilson. I don't think Pierre is so. If this is the same Pierre Wilson, I think he was at one point an officer in Blexit, black dude. But I don't think he's still with them, at least not in a board of governors position. I think he might now just be an employee of Blexit. That was the last time I saw of him. But this was back when they were founded. So you got a whole bunch of white people and Brandon, Candace, Pierre. And Brandon and Candace are supposed to be the people running it. But you got some Republican operatives behind the scenes running it. So all of that stuff she's saying about BLM being like the black faces just being like the front, and it's really just a front for another operation. Wow, it's funny how that same thing, if you're just, it's like she's looking in a mirror. It's like she was talking about herself. It's like Blexit and BLM are the same thing, except BLM is getting more money. And when you realize that that's what really has Candace pissed off, then you're like, oh, I get it. Rocket Man, Rocky Matrix, welcome to the stream. Thank you, Bookish. Both are grifters, absolutely 1000%. Yes, and so many on the right think they are so much smarter than the left, and all they have is talking points. Patrisse Cullors is paid by George Soros, and Candace Owens is paid by Dennis Prager. Prager and Soros are friends. It's a grift. It's like the WWE. It's like the WWE. I remember when she said that was painful. Chaotic truth. He's trying. And pretty soon, maybe he'll get the attention of some of these right-wing interests, and they'll actually give him the shine that he's looking for. Maybe they'll give him a job. Maybe he'll get a gig on PragerU. Him and Amala could do a co-host the show together. You know what I'm saying? Like, listen, chaotic truth. Keep hope alive. Donate to Larry Sharp. Awesome. Candace Owens is from Stamford, Connecticut. Oh, yes. And while we're talking about Candace Owens in Stamford, Connecticut, like you do remember Candace Owens and the whole, her being in high school and getting the racist threats, the death threats from some of her racist classmates and schoolmates, and actually having to be out of school for a period of time and then suing the school board and getting tens of thousands of dollars in a settlement. Right, like this. Now this next one's funny. Dion, yes, Dion. I know it's your people, but I gotta call her out. I'm sorry, Dion. I gotta let her go. I gotta go in. Prager and Soros are friends. Listen, there's so much grifting going on between the left and the right. It's ridiculous. There's so much, like, it's just this whole big grifting circle between the Republicans and Democrats, like I said, it really is the WWE. Everything's gonna be all right. I'm just here for the comments. But what is okay? I came in late. What is a grifter? So let's talk about what a grifter is. And in the terms I'm talking about, it is so because you've got actual criminal grifters who will con people out of money, and it's a crime. When I'm talking about grifting in this context, I'm talking about people that are selling false hope in order to enrich themselves. So they are claiming to believe in a movement, in ideals, and they're just using those ideals, they're using those movements to enrich themselves. And at present, that stuff is legal. Like, I can get up here and say, I'm against police brutality, and you need to donate to me, and we're going to fight police brutality. And I could do nothing to say that and just allow you to just give me money. And I could just, we got to do something. And I could get up here every day, talk about police brutality, and do absolutely nothing for it, do absolutely nothing about it, not actually care. But as long as I'm just, as long as the paperwork checks out, as long as I'm not lying on the paperwork in terms of what I do and what I'm and keeping the money, then it's all good. I can create a nonprofit that's not actually trying to do the things it's saying, as long as if I just let the money stay in the nonprofit. Now, if I start taking money out of the nonprofit and putting it directly in my pocket, that's where it turns from grifting into a crime. And so, but when I'm talking about grifting, it's about just using these issues to enrich oneself. And I mean, you've got church grifters. You've got and like I said, I don't know that couple, that evangelist couple myself specifically, but there are plenty of church and religious grifters that just, and God said that I need a new private jet. So dig deep in your pockets and donate so that the Lord can bless me with a new private jet, because you believe in the Lord, do you not? You support the message of God, do you not? You believe that God's prophet should be compensated, do you not? This is the gospel of prosperity, and if you believe in it, you must make sure that I prosper as God's servant. Amen. Like, okay, so you got those grifters. But there's so much grifting going on now, and especially in this age of social media. You've got religious grifters, you got the political grifters, you've got the social movement grifters. The grift is powerful. The grift is strong. But what's funny is when grifters are calling out each other, and it's like, we can look at your books too, Candace. And then Patrisse with her, oh, no, this isn't about me. This is just white supremacy. No, it's about you being a grifter, Patrisse. It's about you being an absolute and utter grifter. And now it's about Candace. Governor Daniel Malloy's son was the person. Yes, and he's a Democrat. So that's a super villain origin story. Like Candace Owens' life story. And so I'm not buying her book. I'm not doing it. But that whole incident reads as a supervillain origin story. Some racist Democrats, the racist son of a Democratic, politician who's a very powerful dude, because now he's the governor of Connecticut, harassed her, threatened her, and waged war against her. And that's the supervillain origin story of Candace Owens. Now she's like, now these Democrats will pay. This is it's like a movie. Like they really could make a movie about this. Oh, I see. A means to an end. Grifters are opportunists. Yes. Simone Sanders going to be joining the grift game soon. Her new show since getting kicked out of the White House is flopping. I think she's already been in the grift game because, like I said, the political grift is so strong. The political grift game, because you've got the political grift on in terms of government and pundit. So you've got the punditry class. That's where Candace is doing her political grifting. You've got the government side where you've got these people that will get into government and get into positions of government and then use government funds to enrich their friends. There's so much grifting. Got to pay the troll toll. Yes, makes sense. 501, can you see 3? Non-profit, for-profit, or a for-profit. Non-profit, are you a stickler? I'm in the New York State and the NAACP quarterly meeting in Zoom. Want to come with friend? Yeah, if you agree with Candace on anything, you get more views and support. Respect for keeping it honest. And yeah, and so that's what a lot of people doing. Like Chaotic Truth. Chaotic Truth is working on his grift. I love a good supervillain. I'd wear a t-shirt screaming at the top of my lungs that's my childhood hero. Magneto was right. But Magneto was right. But let's take a closer look at Blexit. So when we start from there, we look at the people that were actually on the board of governors, and for somebody who was calling out BLM for having for just being a front, the question is, what about Blexit? Oh yeah, by the way, remember how Patrisse Cullors said she doesn't get a salary from BLM? Okay, well, just to let you know, Candace Owens does get a salary from Blexit. Let's take a look at it. Candace Owens. So I believe it was for 2020. So Candace Owens was getting paid from Blexit $230,000 a year. So $230,000 for that year. Like I said, I think that was 2020. And so the 2021, I haven't seen the 2021 figures yet. Gina Florio, $105,000. Brandon Tatum, $26,000. So Brandon Tatum was just doing part-time work. I believe, if I remember correctly, he was getting paid for approximately 5 hours of work a week. And so that was $26,000. And then George Farmer, her husband, is the treasurer. I think he was getting zero. He's getting zero money. But he's rich already. He's already rich. But once again, this is who's actually running the organization. Okay, yes. And so this was from 2020 because Neil Corkery, this other guy, was the treasurer up until April of 2020. And for those months, he received $26,000. But thing is, hey, remember, it's easy to look at other people's books and ignore your own books, because we've talked about how BLM got $90 million in 2020. Do you know how much money Blexit made in 2020? Let's take a look at it. I really should have blown this up bigger. Yeah, I really should have blown it up bigger. But for 2020, Blexit got about $7 million. I think it was $7 million in change that Blexit got for 2020. Now, it's not $90 million, but it's not nothing either. And so the question is, with that $7 million, you can point fingers at BLM, but what are you doing for Black people? Like, what is Blexit's goal? What is Blexit's goal? Okay, so let's find out what Blexit's goal is. The Blexit Foundation, We the Free, according to its website, its purpose is, it's 5 goals: advocating for school choice and alternative educational opportunities for America's low-income and minority children. 2, promoting criminal justice reform for those impacted by the penal system and developing educational programs to help communities avoid incarceration. I find Candace Owens being the president, CEO of an organization allegedly focused on criminal justice reform is really interesting, considering the kinds of things she says about people who have been accused of criminality, who have criminal histories, people like George Floyd. Like, going out of your way to belittle George Floyd and to disregard his life and what happened to him really makes me look at, like, how can you possibly claim to be a criminal justice advocate? Like, seriously. Like, how can you really pretend? Like, what exactly are you standing on with criminal justice reform? So the funny thing is that there appears to be more specificity there than with the with BLM, Global Network Foundation. But still, like, there's not, like, what are you doing for criminal justice reform? Because, like, I'm not hearing a thing from you about criminal justice reform. Like, your whole point is comply or die. This is the kind of stupid stuff you'll tell people. Comply or die. Not, hey, police shouldn't be killing unarmed citizens. It's comply or die. Ahmaud Arbery gets killed by a bunch of racists, and you're calling him a criminal. You're saying it's on him. They were in the right. Like, these are the people, but your organization claims to be about criminal justice reform. About that, Dion. Yeah. So, like, give me about 5-10 more minutes and I'll bring you up. Definitely. Give me about 5-10 minutes. So let me just finish this monologue and then we could do this. So then we get to championing entrepreneurship and free enterprise as keys to escaping government dependence and poverty. And then developing history programs that will inspire minority children to succeed, lead productive and responsible lives. And so here's the thing. If you don't know Black history, if you don't know anything about Black history, how can we take your organization seriously that it advocates for like developing history programs? Because remember, Brandon Tatum was the one who last year gets up on his YouTube channel and then says, like, the Tulsa massacre didn't happen. This is the scumbag that said the Tulsa massacre didn't happen, but Blexit is focused on Black history to inspire. What? You clowns don't know history. You'll want to rewrite history and ignore the actual things that have happened, the actual atrocities, the actual crimes against humanity that were committed against Black people. But you're going to teach kids history? How? Y'all don't know the history. And when you find out, you lie about it. You pretend it didn't happen. This is the Candace Owens that went in front of Congress and then says she's at a hearing about white supremacy. That's not the problem facing the Black community right now. Then why are you here? Like that's the purpose of the hearing. If you're Republicans, if the people that pay you actually cared about these other issues, they could have hearings for those other issues. You're at a hearing for white supremacy. You're at a hearing talking about the problem of white supremacy, and you get up there and spend your time talking about a bunch of other stuff. And you run an organization that's about Black upliftment? You can't be serious. Brandon Tatum gets up in front of Congress and starts talking about Back to Blue. What? You're at a hearing for threats against minority institutions. No, what we really need to be focused on, need to be focused on is protecting police. That's not the purpose of the hearing. And so if you're in front of Congress to deal with a certain topic and you can't even stay on topic, how can we trust the organization that y'all two lead to stay on the topics that you're claiming that it's about? We can't, because you've shown time and again that when those issues come up, you pivot away from it because you don't actually want to talk about it. You don't actually want to talk about Black history. You don't actually want to talk about racism. In fact, you want to pretend that racism isn't a problem. Candace Owens gets on Laura Ingraham. Oh, when I was young, racism was never a problem. Woman, you sued your school. Like, we see the articles. Like, the internet exists. Facts exist. Records exist. We know this. We know you're full of it. We know you're absolutely full of it. Okay, so now I'm going to do this one that, don't worry, Dan, I'm about to bring you up. Presenting the message of Blexit through evocative visual art and competing libraries. Like, I think they got that one directly from BLM's website. Because like they talk about, yes, live performances and art and using art to spread the message. They're the same. They are two sides of the same coin. So if y'all see, you see Dion, who is he's a representative of Blexit, New York. And once again, my critiques are for the national organization, but he is a member of the organization, so he has to represent. So I'm dropping a link for you, Dion. Where is the link? Give me a second. As soon as I get to figure out. So we're gonna get to hear from somebody who's involved with BLM. That's not BLM. Blexit. Although BLM New York is, like I said, BLM New York is very different from the BLM Global Network. But these, time and again, as you look at this, you listen to the things she says, and you realize that like you can't be taken seriously. Candace Owens cannot be taken seriously. Brandon Tatum cannot be taken seriously. And so, yeah, I think, okay, so this is the one, I think this is part of their books. And in this one, yeah, it talks about how much money they made. So it was like 7.5 million, almost 7.5 million in 2020. So we have that. And now we're going to have our guest, Dion.
Stop laughing, baby. I'm here to rebut and defend my organization and my people. You see this? What does this say, baby? Read this. Stop reading the internet and read this. This is pen and paper, baby. We back. I got lanyards. I got pens. I got all this stuff here, baby. I'm here to promote the brand We the Free Black Exit New York chapter. This guy over here, you see this guy right here? A liar. Fake news, baby. And let me tell you, I'm Dion Powell. I'm the director of the city of New York for Blexit. Now, where Mr. Comney is reading from, Open Corporates, I guess he has a paid membership. Is that a paid membership to opencorporates.com?
No. So that's from Wendy Sigelman. She's the one that got that. So I just pulled that off of her page.
Okay.
Because I got most of my information from the IRS page, but I just pulled up hers. It was easier to pull up.
Yeah, opensecrets.org. Ever heard of that one too? Huh,
buddy? Oh, yeah.
Who made a watchdog? You like being called a dog? Huh? But yes, Brexit, we do have 5 beautiful pillars here. And the thing about it is, like I said earlier in the chat, I am currently in a New York State NAACP meeting with all our little branches or chapters around the state. And the reason why I encourage all of our skin folk to be a part of these organizations is just to be amongst your people, network, knowledge, information, resources, etc. Civic engagement, talk about redistricting. Blexit talking about school choice. One of the persons that's watching the show now, dropping in the chat, you know what? School choice is a good idea. I support that. Now, mind you, just like Dr. Hazel N. Dukes of New York State NAACP, the Reverend Al Sharpton, Candace Owens, Louis Farrakhan, Dr. Umar, these people are just mouthpieces. Don't worry about those characters. Worry about the members in the streets like myself doing the work. Do you know how hard it is to talk about Black conservatism in the hood? But did you know that in Blexit, the organization itself and the chapters, the top 2 chapters in the whole association that are doing the greatest work are New York and California. Now think about it. 2 of the most liberal, if not the most liberal states in the union have the hardest core Blexit members doing the majority of work out there on social media, in the news. Now, why is that significant, Mr. Comey? Because it goes to show you that a lot of people really are making an exit from the blue Kool-Aid. Now, where they go, that's the question. Where's all this energy and frustration go after you look at Black Lives Matter progressively disintegrate? When you look at Black Lives Matter, good idea, catchy phrase, makes sense, and it turns to a payday. When you look at Black Lives Matter, progressively, each and every rally and protest looks less and less having Black lives in the crowd. So then these people, the Black silent majority, which I can't keep saying, have to have a place to go that's organized. And that comes to Blexit once they find out what we have to say and offer. Now, mind you, Aaron, you brought up a lot of valid points about the founders, Tatum and Owens. And just like any other family, we don't always have to agree. We don't have to always disagree as long as we come back and be a family. Now, Candace Owens, great idea, concept of Blexit. I agree with that. Number 2, Candace Owens going in on Kim Klacik, I disagree with. Publicly, I disagree with. For your viewers who don't know who Kim Klacik is, do a quick Google on Kim Klacik, Maryland, Congress, and just do her episode in The View alone. You'll love this Black woman as she ran up against the odds, exposing how Baltimore is in shambles by controlled Black Democratic leadership, and how Joy Behar tried to degrade her, but he said, hey, wait a minute, Durber, what about that time you too appeared in blackface? So that's what I got to say about Blexit. School choice is great because in New York State, as you know, Aaron, we pay more per child than any other state in the union. But thanks to me and Blexit New York, we're giving parents the option, the first educator and last educator, of, hey, guess what? It's okay to homeschool your child, especially with all these vaccines. Blexit New York, the only Black organization to publicly come out against the vaccine mandates, like the other blue case swillers.
That's actually, no, Black Lives Matter of Greater New York. So Hawk Newsom was on the front line. Yes. I personally am suing the city So listen, there's a bunch of black people that have been coming out against this. But
let me ask you a question though, because
yes,
they brought that to my attention too. Because I know Hawk and everybody else in the gang,
yes.
and I was introduced to some of their members. But what does what does BLM National say about the New York Metro chapter? Do you know?
Oh no, they're not even connected. They're not affiliated.
Yes,
Yes.
All right, so we're both saying the same thing. You're right and I'm right. So the mothership said it's not with it, but the local renegade chapter split it off, and I'm saying Blexit fine. But anyway, the point is school choice.
That's what Blexit New York needs to do. Y'all need to get away from the mother organization. Yes.
I just
get away from that.
With Candace Owens.
Get away from that. Yes. Say, I do not endorse that woman. This is Blexit New York. We're a separate entity altogether. That's what you need to do. Because listen, she's toxic. She's toxic. And not only is she toxic, here's what happened. So the same way you have the Global Network Foundation just being funded by special interests, these white liberals that have their own agenda. That's the same thing we're seeing with these Republican operatives, because you've got the Republican money behind her, the establishment money behind her, and they're pushing their own message that has nothing to do with actually addressing black issues. And so Sonny Johnson, about Sonny Johnson, about
March the
yes, like these are people that are being purposely shunned by the Republican establishment. They're actual conservatives.
Well, that's true.
They actually.
But like when we talked about the Florida convention that we were trying to go to, I think a year or two ago with Larry Sharp, that's true. But Blexit has the opportunity for organized mechanism. Now, Candace Owens being the founder, no matter how you feel about her or not, the organized mechanism there is there and should be used appropriately. One of the issues across the board, and this, is that Republicans, the Good Old Boys Club, the white entity above with the finances, have no clue how to reach us in the streets.
Listen, they know. But so if are you familiar with Jeff Charles?
No.
Okay. In fact, you gotta watch some of his stuff. Like he did an entire special on the Lily Whites. The Lily Whites was a faction of, and I say they are a faction of the Republicans. They started like 100 years ago, over 100 years ago, when black people were actually Republicans, and they said, you know what? We want the black people out of the Republican Party. And so they came up with a coordinated effort to get black people out of the Republican Party, and they're still around. So you have black people like Sonny Johnson's, like Jeff Charles, even Maj is a libertarian, but you've got black conservatives. You've got black conservatives that are trying to, like Felicia Killings is in Albany, Georgia, trying to get the local Republican Party to actually do outreach. And they refuse, like any legitimate attempts to get outreach done. They're just like against it. So it's like the same way you have these white liberals that will only accept black people if we're pushing their approved talking points. Is the same way you have these white Republican establishment who will only accept black people if we're pushing their talking points. Because when Sonny Johnson starts talking and if she's saying that, they're like, wait, when she said, like, if she says she's black, they're like, oh, no, what's that? No, you can't be black. You have to be American. So this whole nonsense they do of they have their own agenda. And if we're not lockstep with their talking points, we can't move forward.
That's true. And that's unfortunate across the board. Just like Booker T. Washington, W.D. Du Bois, even coming to find out now that Marcus Garvey had some kind of white hand behind the scenes of the money. Here in the Western Hemisphere in America, being the system as it is, it's very difficult for us as black leaders to do much anything without some kind of white power structure behind us. Now, Farrakhan, you got to give him credit. On the outward appearance, what he's doing with Nation of Islam in concept is actually what we should be doing across the board. But unfortunately, what comes along with that, with the baggage, you know what I mean? But Maj and Sonny and King Randall, they're doing the best they can. But we, just like the socialists, will have to take a Blexit and co-opt it. Just like the Democratic Party, we have to co-opt it from inside out. And do
but look how well that's going on with the socialists. It's not. they're failing miserably. They're like, so AOC gets in. AOC, Ayanna
From the
Presley,
Bronx.
yeah, yeah. They got in and they're like, yes, we're gonna fight for you. They got in, and what did they do? They fought for themselves because AOC is AOC is great. AOC's got money coming in. She's got influence now, and she's making sure she does not rock the boat. Because if she rocks the boat, they will get her ass out of there in a heartbeat. So like, that's the problem. Like we need, like it's basically, this is a war. This
Like
is a
the
war
vote on
against the
the Iron
establishment.
Dome. Remember the Iron Dome vote where AOC started crying because
Yes,
Nancy Pelosi was bullying her?
yes, yes. It's crazy. But look how she got into office, and she had staff around her that was Justice Democrats. She got rid of them and then pulled in people that was affiliated with Kamala. Like what?
Were
You
they from the
clearly
Bronx? Were they from Queens?
no. They're probably from
They
DC.
had money on the streets? Oh. That's
Yeah.
right, people. Let's talk about how they program the black people to be so poor and emotional and fearful of the big bag, voter registration and voter empowerment card to be taken away, that you must vote. And that's your superpower in life. And then walk away.
Well, it's a self-serving issue.
Yeah, I like that. So sorry.
Voting rights is a self-serving issue. All it does is help Democrats in terms of, oh, we need to get you out and vote. Okay, well then give us voting freedom. Give us actually ballot access. Like loosen up the ballot access laws so that we can actually choose who's on that ballot.
You know what's funny?
They don't want to talk about that.
In the New York State NAACP meeting right now on the Zoom, they're talking about how New York is going to pave the way for John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and we're going to be. So I said, wait a minute. You just mentioned earlier briefly that Governor Kathy Hochul is not renewing the COVID absentee ballot access they were supposed to have. So how is this any change of any voting rights access if you're not giving us either automatic voter registration, absentee ballot access, and that kind of stuff? But surely, like, come on, y'all, this may be the last time that democracy, if Donald Trump comes back, y'all, we in trouble, y'all. But you too are 501c blood-sucking 3 and have to be somewhat impartial, bipartisan. No? Co-opted, compromised.
Oh yeah, it is. But we're seeing this at these organizations that will come forward and pretend to be about these certain issues are actually being like shadowly run by people in the shadows.
But Aaron, the question is that I tell people all the time, even though they, bash Blexit or NAACP for whatever reason, then what is your proposed solution to galvanizing the blacks to do something? So Dion, what are you doing? Well, I'm pushing Blexit. I'm over here in NAACP, but I'm doing it locally to awaken people to the civic education piece, economic development.
Right. Okay. So one of the things I'm doing, like to fight the mandates, I actually said, okay, I'm going to sue the government. Like that's just one thing. But in terms of, I am putting something together on a separate nonprofit. Listen. So because I'm going to, when I name my nonprofit, I'm going to have definitive goals, and I've got the stuff outlined. This is going to be vicious. Like this is going to be the thing that gets me assassinated. So I'm telling you, this is going to be the thing that gets me assassinated. I'm going to accidentally, like they're like, wow, how did he shoot himself 5 times in the head? That's what's going to be. But I'm going to outline actual definitive steps to change things, and that's because that's what we need. Because we need to actually have, it's not going to be something vague. So we can't just say, oh, I want to beat white supremacy.
I'm trying to copy this and put it on my social media. I'm trying to copy this live, and I'll just put it in my social media.
Okay. Right. Yeah. So that's one of the things I'm putting together. But there are people that are doing it. So you've got King Randall, who actually created the school. You got Modge in Philadelphia, who created the Solutionary Center, and he's doing something. So even there's groups that are working within the 2-party system, but they're not letting the establishment control their messaging. So when Felicia Killings is doing her outreach, she's like, listen, you're not going to get us to be ashamed of blackness. But that's like the prerequisite. So Kathleen Barnett, perfect case in point. Kathy Barnett is the most MAGA candidate like out there. But here's what happens. Kathy Barnett is so MAGA, she's ultra MAGA. They're literally calling her ultra MAGA. But because she said in an interview that racism exists, they're trying to cancel her. The Republicans, Hannity, I think Tucker came out against her.
Oh, she's
All of
going
these
to
people.
Dr. Oz.
Yes, listen, yeah. But listen, you got to see what they played. They played this thing against her because she said racism exists. She said racism exists, and they were like, "How dare she?" That's what's crazy. Like we have to pretend that racism against black people doesn't exist, but white people are being persecuted by who? White people? Like this is the nonsense that this Republican establishment is pushing.
But one of the things that Blexit, we try to, at least in my chapter, I gotta speak for myself, is the word victimization. So you saw how we put out the race card and racism exists. For us, it's like, well, you have to stay focused. That should be in the forefront of your mind. Don't let that object your view on life, that you could be whatever you want to be. We're more about self-determination. And this whole big scary monster of racism, the book screaming exists in the jungle, but that shouldn't be your primary motive when you wake up in the bed to go out and side that day. You know what I mean?
Here's why I say that. See, there's a difference between victimhood and victimhood mindset. See, victimhood, so here's what happened. Because I just looked up that word yesterday because I saw a chaotic truth. Well, he's a YouTuber. He was talking about victimhood, and I'm like, wait a minute. Victimhood is the state of actually being a victim. Like we have limited control over that, or at least of being a target.
Right.
Victimhood mindset is inventing, this state. But the fact is, like we're dealing with a system that has, for hundreds of years, has come after black people. If we ignore the existence of that system and the fact that, wait a minute, what's changed? What's changed? Because, okay, so for hundreds of years, anti-blackness has existed, right? Anti-blackness has been a key feature of the United States government, United States society. What changed? Did like just magically 1960s end and people go, you know what? Racism is stupid. Or did people just start hiding it better? Because like, listen, really, look at, there's this, I was just looking on the internet. They had this thing on Twitter. And there's this little white kid, like 10, 11 years old, with a whip in his hand, banging on some black family's door because I guess he's going to call himself, he's going to whip their daughter, you know? And so the mother comes out and says, boy, if you don't get away from my door. And so then the father goes over to the father's house and the father is defending him and backing up that bullshit. And so it's like, this is 2020. Okay, correction. This is 2022. It's been a hell of a year. This is 2022. This is 2022. And this is still happening. So we have no reason to believe that anti-blackness just vanished into thin air. But I agree that we have to be looking at it in the terms of anti-blackness isn't an impossibility. It's an obstacle that we have to overcome. So be aware of it, and based on historical knowledge and studying history, being familiar with history, we can establish, okay, this is what I need to do not to be able to allow this to stop me from moving forward. So that's why I hate government. Like that's really why I hate government. Because like if you take a look at it, government has been the weapon that these white supremacists have used since the beginning to stop black progress. Over and over again. Black people start making strides. Okay, we need the government to come up with some nonsense. Oh, black codes. Oh, Jim Crow. Oh, urban renewal. Like, oh, crack law. Like every time they keep coming. Work. Listen.
Libertarian.
Listen. Sex work exists, but the fact that they want to use it to criminalize black people is a problem. I think we should be giving all black people options beyond sex work. But if black people want to do it, I don't think the government has any business
to
interfering
regulate
with black
sex work.
people's. Yeah, I definitely
Unionize
don't
the
think that.
sex workers like Amazon. Unionize sex
Listen, you
benefits.
unionize and protect themselves. Have people that actually do security for sex workers. Like seriously, because that'll create a much safer environment for these women that are out there than what they're currently dealing with. But like it's
You know what you should do? This is what's going on YouTube. In case you didn't notice, I love Dr. Thomas Sowell. So right now, all these kids in the hood that are discovering Thomas Sowell are doing a YouTube videos breakdowns of some of his lectures. I think you should do a live about that and a video about that and a review. So why don't you tell us about Thomas Sowell and how you feel about his philosophy?
not a fan of Thomas Sowell.
Oh, really?
Yes, see, you didn't see that.
I'm surprised.
Right. Well, because he had a lot of those talking points.
Yes, he does.
Right, that's the point. But the whole point is he doesn't apply. His logic isn't consistent. So the same tough love and that this is what it is. He applies it to black people, not to white people.
Yes, he does.
So no, he talks about the whole white rednecks and black rednecks.
So Irish and all that kind of stuff.
Right, but in terms of principles, so like if he's talking about welfare states, because you look at this whole welfare statism, that destroyed the black community, but more white people are on welfare than black people. So if welfare destroyed the black community, why aren't people out there saying, white welfare destroys the white community? Because it's some nonsense. It's talking points from the Moynihan report. That's what it is. That's what it is. And majority of these people don't even realize where these talking points come from. But it was just these are talking points to say, see, we shouldn't be giving welfare to black people. But for the decades that white people were getting welfare and black people were cut out of welfare, it was all good. When welfare started being given to black people as well, no, this is bad. We need to get rid of welfare. Wait a minute. Decades. Welfare built the white middle class. All these handouts from government built the white middle class, but now all of a sudden, anything being done for black people is this is going to hurt. Create a sense of dependency.
There's like all things is the duality. There's some validity what you're saying, but did you read or see the lecture that he talked about where these black leaders prey on poverty and how they use the emotions of the masses to actually control them? There's certain talking points of Thomas Sowell you can agree with.
That's true.
There's something that you should agree with. That's why I think you should dissect some of his lectures. Like he could go into how affirmative action hurt more than helped. And all these different promises like diversity inclusion will never work for our people because the ends and the means don't mix out at the moment.
Well, I think integration was a problem.
He also broke down how sex education was a huge failure when it happened in the 60s. And progressively, he went decade by decade as to why. And I think that kind of academic from an economist instead of these other people actually is appreciated. And the thing about his scholarly work, you have to ask yourself the question as to why it's been undervalued and not given as much screen time as the Dr. Cornel West and Dr. Eric Dyson. And you know what I mean? So this is the duality of both sides of our culture, extreme right, extreme left centrist, that is neglected, and the black conservative point of views from our liberal progressive media points gets pushed to the back burner. Oh, I see we have another troll in the chat. I'm gonna leave. I'll get back in the chat and troll these guys.
But yeah, listen, so there's some points of his that make sense, and there's a bunch of leaders that aren't actually black leaders. They're handpicked, and this is what I'm talking about. You've got these people that are handpicked by the establishment to be, and I believe it was Terrace Smiley that said this during the Black State of the Union. Well, they shut him down.
Me too, him, didn't they? Me too. Like they're trying to Me Too. You should go on and talk about how Dave Chappelle and how finally the cancel culture is being countered now with Dave Chappelle because they're really trying to cancel Dave Chappelle. But now they sent a memo out. I think it was where's the stream from? Amazon, Netflix? I think it's Netflix. They sent a memo like, you know what? People just deal with it at this point. And so now it's a mass movement to destroy Dave Chappelle. So if they cancel Dave Chappelle or we don't call it out now, who's at fault? Black America.
Oh yeah, but I like that Black America isn't going for this because these liberal puppets from in the Black community that are trying to rally. Larry, we need to cancel him. Oh, this is wrong. Shut the hell up. Get out the way. We see the hand we see the hand up. We're doing the talking. We know where the hand is shoved up. So, like, listen, it's not. Yeah, we're not going for it. Get out the way. Y'all are bought and paid for. And yeah, I see these people that are just working for the liberal establishment, and like they'll write articles. I think it was the Root or something like that.
No,
yeah.
the Griot.
The Griot, yeah. Just stupid articles. The stuff that doesn't even make sense. It's not even logical.
We need some abortions, y'all. They're coming after your abortions. And abortions is a good thing. Meanwhile, back at the back church, after that sermon about pro-abortions, they're coming after your voting rights, y'all. Come on, voting rights. All right, guys, let's all sing. Once again, we're at the NAACP meeting right now, Aaron. Come on in. And they're going to sing that, the old Negro Black Ashram. You know what I mean? God bless the king. I got it going, but it was a fun show. Hopefully, let some of the other guys call in. You got to have the show interactive like that. Where people are like, you know what? You're wrong. I'm right.
Thanks for coming on, Dion. Thanks a lot. Yeah, so that was Dion. He's a member of Blexit, New York. He had to defend the honor of Blexit. It's always fun having Dion on. But yeah, the realizing just how much these organizations are actually controlled by special interest is the key to realizing your Patrisse Cullors, your Candace Owens, same thing, same people, same person. So actually, what I am going to do now is anybody that wants to call in can go ahead and call in. Now, you won't have to be on camera. In fact, we'll do it just where you can call in by voice. But if you want to call in, you can hop on and we'll just have you on audio only. Anybody else who wants to call in and offer some insight. Yeah, so if you want to call in audio only, you can call. Feel free to call in now, and we can discuss more of this situation. The whole Candace Owens, Patrisse Cullors. Do you think that they're the same person? Do you like one and not the other? Let me know. Let me know your perspective. Because as you look through the paperwork, as you look through like who even is controlling, who the other faces behind the scenes of Blexit, where they're getting their money, what they're getting their money for. So in terms of talking about historical education, like I know I can't take Brandon Tatum, Candace Owens seriously on terms of Black education or historical education. Hey, Mr. Knickerbocker, how you doing? Because we see time and time again that they don't even know history. They have no grasp of history. They have no grasp of reality when they're saying, like, when that YouTube video with Brandon Tatum pretending that the Tulsa massacre didn't happen is atrocious. It's atrocious. And so this lets you know about the type of people that are actually funding him. Because he's got he's getting close to 2 million subscribers. So you've got these white conservatives that are just so, like, they're so allergic to truth. They're so allergic to fact that they love him because he lies to them. They love him because he lies to them about Black people all the time. Do they not know? Is it smart money? No, so like with Candace Owens, because like Candace Owens says she learned history from Charlie Kirk. Like she doesn't know, she just recites talking points, which is why if you ever get her on a place where she's has to actually speak on an issue, where she's actually dealing with somebody who doesn't agree with her viewpoint, there's nothing. Like like she can't do it, which is why she always has to be preaching to the choir. So she'll go on Tucker Carlson when it's just her and Tucker. She says it, and he just, that's so true. That's it. That's the whole shtick. That's their whole shtick. The whole shtick is she says some stupid stuff that's not based on facts, reality, or logic, and then he goes, "You're so right. You're so great. You're awesome." And then she gets to say racist stuff about black people, and he gets to say, "Well, I didn't say it. The black woman said it. So you can't say it's racist." I think you're giving them too much credit. They know. And then, but like with Brandon Tatum, like it's clear like he had just learned about Tulsa, and then he gets on and then lies about it. He absolutely lies about it because he knows his audience doesn't want to hear the truth. So he has to lie, like he has to sell this lie to white conservatives. Black people are lazy. Black people are stupid. It's the same lie him and Candace are always selling, because Candace is always saying bad, horrible stuff about black people. Black people are brainwashed. Well, the Republican Party is going out of its way to alienate black voters. Out of its way. No, it's not black people are brainwashed. The Republican Party doesn't want black people in the lily whites are still in control of the Republican Party. And if you don't know who the lily whites are this faction of the Republicans that wanted to keep the Republican Party white. So that's why the black faces that are in the Republican Party are the black faces that are so dismissive, so and so ready to belittle and denigrate black people. Those are the black faces that get promoted in the Republican Party. Like the interview section in the Republican Party is, okay, so you're black. Do you hate black people? If your answer is yes, you're hired. If your answer is no, like, okay, hold up. if in order to get pushed, because if you're a black Republican that actually likes black people, if you're a black Republican that actually respects black people, then the establishment is going to be like, yeah, we don't really we don't have any open positions right now, but you can apply again in 3 to 6 months. So you'll see it's funny because I talked about the whole conservative civil war, the black conservative civil war, and there are black conservatives that actually like black people, respect black people, and I watch them constantly get shunned by the establishment. I always thought about voting Republican, but Republicans always have to pander to racists during primaries. Like they will go out of their way. And I don't think you were here because we were just talking about Kathy Barnett. Kathy Barnett is an ultra MAGA black Republican woman, and they're trying to cancel her. So I know Sean Hannity was going in on her. I think Tucker Carlson as well. And they were going in on her saying, because she did a video where she said that racism exists. She did a video acknowledging that racism exists, and they're like, they just start clutching their pearls. Because if you're a black Republican, you have to pretend racism isn't real. Like that's one of the core tenets. No, correction. You can acknowledge that racism exists, but you have to say that white people are the real victims of racism. That racism exists against white people. That's what you have to be pushing. You have to be pushing that the Democratic Party hates white people. The Democratic Party that's controlled by white people is hates white people. That's the stupidity you have to push if the Republican establishment is going to accept you. That Hollywood that is run by white people hates white people. That's the stupid stuff you have to push if you're going to be accepted by the Republican establishment. When white supremacists are finished with their tools, they break their tools. Yep. N-word wake up call. Yeah. But like right now, I think right now, Candace is pissed off because Blexit made 7.5 million or so in 2020. BLM made $90 million. $90 million. Candace is looking at that like, maybe I switch teams. If I could get that, if I could get in on those tens of millions of dollars, I might just switch teams. I like that's what Candace is mad about. Candace isn't mad that Patrisse Cullors is grifting. Candace Owens is mad that Patrisse Cullors is grifting better than Candace Owens. That's what Candace Owens' problem is. She's mad. She's like, I was supposed to be getting that money. I'm supposed to be making money like that. She didn't think that kind of money could be made in on the left wing as a black liberal, because she figured it's just so many black liberals, so many black liberal tools. She figured, okay, the money's too diluted. It's a smaller pool over here, so I would be able to get higher returns. She didn't realize that 2020 would happen, summer of Floyd and everything, and heavy money came in on the for black liberals, particularly Patrisse and her group. But as I look at it, it's like it's becoming just increasingly obvious that we got to do the research in terms of seeing people that will get up and say, hey, I'm fighting for this issue. Okay, what's the plan? So like I was telling Dion, yes, when I start my nonprofit, like I have a plan. I have an actual plan. And my missions, I will have articulable goals, and I will outline what the steps are to get there. Like this is the purpose of the organization. This is where we're moving to. We have specific articulable goals. This is what we're doing. So there's not going to be that whole, my goal is to make the world a safer place, a better place for black people. What does that mean? What does that mean? And how are you going to do that? Okay, 10-point program. Well, you see, think about it. The Black Panthers had an actual plan. Like the Black Panthers had an actual plan. So if you disagree with it, you disagree with it. But they had an actual plan. This is what we're doing. Boom, 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 boom. Yes. Not just vague talking points, an actual plan. Boom. Okay, we've got this lunch program. We got this free food program. We're actually feeding people. So like if I've got a plan, if I've got, okay, I'm giving educational courses on finance. Boom, boom, boom. Like start listing exactly what we're going to be doing. And transparency is key. Transparency is key. So I like what Maj did with Black Guns Matter. Because he actually went and he wasn't charging anybody. He's going from city to city, not charging people for these groups. He'll go to the city, boom. He'll give the course on firearms training, knowledge on gun laws, local gun laws. Like this is what I'm actually doing. letting people know what's actually being done with the money, what King Randall's doing with the school. I want to show you exactly what's happening with the money. And then and eliminate all these thoughts that, oh, you can't question me. No, if I'm asking for the public's money, then yeah, the public has a right to know. They definitely have a right to question. They have every right and reason to question. And if I'm doing my job, like I don't even have to wait for you to ask the questions. I should be telling you, boom, this amount of money was raised. This is what this money is being spent on. Like I shouldn't even be waiting for you to ask. I should be telling you what's being done with the money, what objectives are being achieved with the money, what steps have been taken, what goals have been reached, and what's next. And so I want to thank everybody for checking out this live stream. Thank you for coming. And that's how much it's going to take for them to buy you out, though. Listen, I said, once they see the plan, that's what's going to get me assassinated. The group is going to outlive me. Trust me. Believe me, the group is going to outlive me. I know. But thank you, everyone, for coming. Check out the live stream. And yeah, thank you for everyone checking out the live stream. Been fun talking. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Have a great rest of your Saturday, everyone.